page 2 of the multiple choice review part number 1. Just like page 1, I'll try to give you a little hint, give you a pause so you can try it on your own and then give it the answer afterwards. So to look at for number 7, right, you got an expression I squared times 5x minus 2y in parentheses, that's also squared, is equivalent to. Here, right, I'm going to always, the idea for imaginary numbers is you want to get them, you want to simplify them as much as you can, right? So right off the bat, I see I squared. I know I squared equals -1, right? So I'm going to just write that over here. And that means at the end, I'm really just going to switch the signs of whatever I get. This right here, what do? I want to make sure I multiply 5x minus 2, not just squaring these, but I have to make sure I'm multiplying 5x minus 2 two times. That's your hint. Try it on your own. And then we're back again, right? If I do FOIL for this, right, I'm going to say 5x times 5x gives me 25x squared minus 10xi minus my inners, another 10xi. And then my last ones plus 4i squared. I know I squared, right, just like before, equals -1. So what am I doing here, right? If I want to start combining my like terms, I know that becomes a -4. These two are like terms, so I'm going to get -20xi. And then there's really nothing to combine with my 25x squared, so that just comes down. And then can't forget about my little -1 in the very beginning. Bring my -1 back over, switch the signs. And when I do that, I'm going to get -25x squared plus 20xi plus 4. Answer choice number 2. If I look at number 8 now, right, you have two functions. And this is kind of like a little word problem, right? Because it says when 2 times f of x is subtracted from g of x, the result is, we don't know, right? What am I really saying? I'm really saying I want to multiply this function by 2. And after I do that, I'm subtracting it from this, right? So if I rewrite it out, I'm just going to kind of say 3x squared minus 7x plus 25. And then what am I subtracting? 2 times 7 over 2 x squared minus 5x plus 11. That's your hint. And then we're back, right? Well, what am I going to do? I have to distribute, right, this -2 into all the terms inside my parentheses. So this becomes what? The 2's cancel out, right? They actually are nice to you, and you're just going to get -7x squared. This -2 times -5x gives me a positive 10x. And then -2 times 11 minus 22. Bring this down, right? And then just from this point subtracting like terms, right? So that's a 7x plus 25, right? 3x squared minus 7x gives me a -4x squared. -7 plus 10x gives me a positive 3x. And then positive 25 minus 22 is going to give me a positive 3. Won't write it all out, but number 3 is your answer choice. Going down to looking at number 9, right now we have a system of equations, right? It looks a little bit weird because in the second one we don't have an x. The third one, they're kind of jumbled, right? I'm going to say, right, use your calculator trick in this one because you just don't have a lot of time, right? And you don't have to show your work, right? So calculator trick, right? I showed you the video, but you would go to second on your graphing calculator, matrix. You want to edit your matrix and make your matrix into a 3x4 matrix. It's going to kind of look like this, right? On your calculator, it's going to look like some little bars. And now I'm just putting in the coefficients, right? So my first row would be a 5, positive 2, -1, -14. Second row, there is no x value, so that's just a 0. 7, -1, and 31. And then my third row, right, I have to make sure I'm looking for my x value. So that's actually -5. My y value is still 5. And my z value is 4, -23. Once I make this matrix, I'm going to go to then second matrix again, go scroll over once the math, scroll down to the letter B, and you get this thing that's called like R, R, E, F. If you press enter, you'll see, right, it pops up, looks like this. I go back to matrix one last time, put in the matrix, whatever matrix I chose. In this case, right, you might have, it might look like something that looks like something like this, right? A, if you only have one matrix stored in there. Close parentheses. I get an answer, right? And the last column is going to be my answers, right? So my x value would be -7, my y value is 2, and my z value is -17. They're looking for what? The x value. So my answer choice is number 4. All right. Number 10 is a tricky one, right? Because you have to really think about exponential growth or decay, and you're using not the table this time, but a graph, right? But I'm going to point out 2 points, right? There's really no good points on here other than 2. Obvious one, always look right for your initial value. So at 0 days, I start off with 50 grams of this substance. The only other good value I see is at, I think this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 2 days, I'm starting off with what? 30 grams of this, or after 2 days where I have 30 grams left. This is where I go now to my exponential decay like formula. I know A at a certain time, right, is always going to equal your A initial. And in this case, I play around with the inside a little bit, right? My rate is going to be what? My rate is going to be 1 minus, because it's decay, whatever my rate is, right, over, or I'll raise to the power, right, of t, right, the time. So I know, right, my initial value is 50, so my A0 is 50. I don't know what my rate is, right, because that's what's they're trying to have me figure out. But I do know at 2 days I have 30 left, right? So I'm going to use that. I'm going to say my output, right, at t equals 2 is 30. From here it just becomes an equation I have to solve. I start by, right, dividing 50 on both sides. That leaves me with 0.6 equals 1 minus r to the power of 2, right? In order to get rid of this power of 2, I have to square root both sides. That gets rid of this, so I'm going to left with 1 minus r equals, I think it's going to say like 0.77. All right, but I'm not done yet. I still have to solve for r, so if I subtract 1 on both sides, I'm left with negative 0.225, right, which would round up, we're going to say, just to 0.23 equals negative r, and then because I have a negative, I'm dividing by -1, so I'm just going to change that to a positive, that to a positive. What's my percentage? 23%. We're good to go. Last one. If I look at this one, right, this one, right, this one's actually kind of similar to the one we just did, right, where we have to do a little bit before we can try to get this x value down to the bottom, right? So first step, what do I want to do? I want to divide both sides by 4. If I do that, right, the 4's cancel out. So over here, I'm going to have 10 to the power of 5x minus 2 equals 3. This is where it gets a little tricky, right? Because now I have to like actually look at my answer choices, and my answer choices are all working with log. So I'm going to take the log of both sides, right? If I did that in my calculator, right, it defaults to basically log base 10, and we know log base 10 of whatever we're taking, right? If the numbers are the same, guess what? It's the inverse. So this just becomes 1, right? Over here, I'm basically saying, right, the log base 10 of 3, but they're not showing it because it's the default one, right? So I bring this down, right? This becomes 1, and that lets my exponent come down to the bottom. So it's going to become 5x minus 2 equals basically just the log of 3, right? And then it becomes, right, now I'm solving for x. If I add x to both sides, my work's coming up here because I'm running out of space. I'm left with what? 5x equals log 3 plus 2. And then I'm dividing, right, both sides by 5. And what am I left with? X equals the log of 3 plus 2 all over 5. There you go.